Good afternoon, Tiegerman, parents, families, friends, and of course, to our beloved students if you're watching, greetings. This is Dr. Jeremy Tiegerman. I am the director of Tiegerman Schools, and today is Friday, April 24th, 2020. It's unbelievable as I look at the calendar. We are today completing our fifth full week of remote learning. Seems like just yesterday we were all in the building together. So it's been quite a while and quite a roller coaster ride for all of us. But I know that we've accomplished some really great things, and whatever issues that we've had, we have addressed them. And if we continue to have issues, we will. You have my promise. We will take care of them. Today's portion of my video series is a shortened one. I have some updates for all of you. Next week's video recording will be a longer one and a very, very important one. As I had mentioned during our last video conference, we are planning on rolling out the Google Classroom platform and the Google Meet Hangout platform as well for teletherapy communication purposes. So I will be having the building principals join me on our Zoom recording next week, and we will be going step by step to explain to all of you how to navigate that new world. And I don't want to really rush into it because it just seems like we have become used to and acclimated to what we are doing now with Zoom and for teletherapy and through our website, the classroom pages. There were some bumps along the way in the beginning, but I think that we worked them out. And I had some real sleepless nights about determining whether we really wanted to go and switch this thing up again. But I have done my research, and I have spoken to many family members and staff members who have indicated that while the system that we presently have in place is certainly adequate and is pretty decent, that the Google universe will really hit it out of the park and make a major difference for your experience, for your children's experience, and for also our staff's experience. So we're going to move forward in that, and specifics and information will be provided to you next week of how to do that, how to sign up for it, how to navigate it, and the timeline that we are going to be implementing and following to roll that out. A couple of other updates that I wanted to bring to your attention. As I mentioned last time, I had to apologize. I had really forgotten to mention this before, and it should have been part of every single one of my presentations. For all of the frontline first responders, health workers, essential workers, anybody out there, we are so very grateful and thankful and appreciative to all of you. For our Tiegerman family members, for all of you that have been impacted by this very challenging pandemic, and any of you who are first responders and you have family members who are essential workers, we thank you and we stand with you and will support you however we can. We appreciate all that you're doing. Thank you. Today, as I mentioned, is April 24th, and I wanted to acknowledge to all of our families who are observing the holiday of Ramadan. We hope that it is a joyous holiday. And for many of us, sometimes we go to our prayers, and we are praying with all of you, and we are praying all together to get through this very challenging time. A couple other things that I wanted to mention to you. Your input, parents, are so very important to us. And we've been receiving a great deal of feedback, whether it be through the emails that we receive from these videos. And I will remind you again, social@tiegerman.org. If you have any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to forward them to the email. And I will do my best to address these questions and concerns. You certainly can go back to your building principals for individual issues relating to your children and their academic programming or therapeutic programming. So you can definitely do that. We've also received feedback from our live Zoom meetings, and we recently expanded that. The development department felt that we had some pretty good participation during the earlier Zoom calls, but also wanted to expand it to an evening Zoom call during the week. So there's always a AM and a PM Zoom call every week so that we can accommodate families who are working during the day. And we've received some feedback from that. So we're really appreciative of that. But we also were thinking of producing a survey. And we are putting the finishing touches on the survey. And I will be forwarding the survey to the building principals. And the building principals will be then distributing the surveys to all of our families. It won't take you too long. It's about 10 questions, but we really appreciate your input and feedback. It relates to your experience and your children's experience to date with regard to the remote learning programming and teletherapy. I always appreciate positive feedback, but we realize that we could always do better. So if it's not positive, we will take it and we will get better from it. So please, if you do receive that, please do your best to get that back to us. Your input is so very important to us. Another piece to the feedback that we've been receiving is that some families and parents have felt, and I know that in the very beginning, that many families felt overwhelmed, not only with the remote learning plan and the teletherapy, just being contacted multiple times a day by our staff. So again, I will go back and apologize. I'm sorry. You know, these times, these current times and the times that we're dealing with 2 weeks ago, unprecedented and very challenging. And there was a lot of conflict and stress in our world. So if we created any more for you, I apologize to you. However, okay, we strongly believe that communication during these times is so very important. And if you are overwhelmed by the communications, we will take it case by case. So please alert your building principal. I know that you are all contacted on a daily basis by the teaching assistants to collect attendance. And that is something I have to be honest with you now. That is something that we cannot bend on. We must take attendance every day. Okay, it's very, very clear from the state and from the Department of Education that in order for us to justify our remote learning programs and our teletherapy programs, we must ensure that we have student participation, engagement, and attendance. So at the very least, I just want to forewarn you all, you will definitely be contacted every day by a classroom teaching assistant to take attendance. And then if your child has related services on that particular day, you will be contacted, or your child will be contacted to participate in their mandated related services. Outside of that, everyone's contacting schedule may be and will be a little bit different. So if those communications beyond the related services that we have to give, as well as the teaching assistant attendance, retrieving that attendance information for us, and we have to do this, if beyond that, that's an issue for you, please let the teaching assistant or your teacher, classroom teacher, or your building administrator know. We'll do the best we can to work with you. Last week, I went over changes to our grading policies for our 6th through 12th grade. And you should have received notification on that. If you did not receive notification, please reach out to your building principal to receive the hard copy notification on that. You could also tune into my last week's recorded session where I explained we were going to a pass-fail grading policy, and I provided you with some directives on workload and task completion. Okay, it's going to be a very, very difficult process of grading all of your children through this unprecedented time, but we need to have a grading system in place, a reliable, valid grading system. And if we all believe that the pass-fail for grades 6 to 12 is a good way to go at this point in time. But how do we quantify or how do we qualify that pass fail grade? And what we are asking for all of our families is to make sure that their children are doing their best to complete as much work and to participate as much as possible. Does this mean that everything needs to be completed and everyday participation is necessary? No. Okay, we will still take attendance, but we understand that if something comes up at home or if you have to go to work on a particular day, it may be challenging. Just let somebody know. Let the teaching assistant know. Let the teacher know. Let the building administrator know. We couldn't finish this project this week. We'll get to it next week. What I can tell you is that if a student is doing nothing, participating, not participating at all, not showing up and attending at all, then the child is going to have some difficulty in receiving a passing mark for that marking period. If you're unsure, please reach out to your building administrator or to a teacher or to the teaching assistant if you have specific questions about requirements for pass fail. And if your student is not, or your child is not participating or handing in adequate amounts of work, a staff member will definitely reach out to you and alert you that that you have to pick up the pace a little bit and do a little bit more work. Okay, hopefully that answers that and that reinforces what we've been saying over the last couple of weeks, because it's been so stressful for you. We want to work with you. We want to help you. I mentioned our plans have to be adaptive and flexible, and we will work with you. So don't worry about that. Just you got to let somebody know. My last portion of today's talk, let's see how tech savvy I am. I'm going to try to screen share with all of you because I just wanted to share with you some very early preliminary transition plans. We talked about this last week, and some building administrators may have started talking to all of you or sending out notifications about our plans for transitioning back to our physical school spaces. Please be advised, we have not been advised that we have to open anytime soon. And the governor's New York State pause is through May 15th. So we know that the schools, all Tiegerman programs will be closed through May 15th. If we get any notification or information prior to that, we will let you know immediately. But whether it be through the end of May, or if we are closed through June, or we have to open in the summertime, or we have to open in September, regardless of when we open, that transition back is going to be a very challenging and stressful one for all of us, whether it be the types of policies that we create, whether it be the psychological and stress levels that we have to deal with returning to physical spaces and being around people that are our friends and our coworkers, but they are not our immediate family that we've been hunkered down with for the last several weeks. So it's going to be hard. And the plan that I'm going to be presenting to you, okay, is a very early initial preliminary plan, and it will change. And it may change prior to our opening, and it definitely will change in the weeks when we do open and we return to work. That first week, second week, third week, teachers, building administrators, families may be saying this is not working and we may need to go back to the drawing board. But the importance of me having this conversation with you now, as I said last time, is that I want you all to know that we are not waiting to the last minute to do this. We are doing it now, okay? And it's never too early to start planning. And the planning allows all of us to put certain things in place that we feel will be very helpful to assist in the transition. It will also help to communicate the plan to everyone so that we are on the same page, and also will allow through the communications to receive feedback. We will be, in addition to me sharing this with you today, we will be forwarding these preliminary plans to our building staffs, and then they will be reviewing it and sharing their feedback. And once we receive their feedback, then we will revise that plan and then formalize those plans. And then hopefully at that point in time, we will be ready to forward that to all of you in written format. And I will definitely be doing another video presentation on those transition plans. Each transition plan, while there will be consistency across the board on kind of global issues, each building based on their unique circumstances, as I mentioned over the last couple times, whether it be age groups, whether it be the layouts of the school building, the number of students in a building, there are going to be some unique individual items on each plan that will differ from building to building. But once we are ready to forward it to you, we will do so, and then we will be open to your feedback because you are all important stakeholders in this transition back to school plan. Okay, without further ado, let me see if I could screen share. Okay. And let me just bear with me, guys. All right, let me just, okay. 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 Hopefully you are able to see this. Okay, and this is just one of, we have 4 transition plans, but I just wanted to share with all of you just a sample, a very early, and it's a rough draft plan. Okay, and I'm not necessarily wanting to go through line by line, item by item, but I just wanted so all of you can see and hear some of the areas that we are already considering and thinking about, and it will allow you to shape your judgment or come up with some thoughts and ideas, and maybe some of the areas that we're considering um, are we're missing something, or we have a blind spot, and you come up with another area that we should be considering, and that's why I'm sharing with you now. So we believe at this point in time, okay, in these early plans, communication with families is going to be so very critical to effectively transitioning back to our school buildings, okay? And what does communication mean? Communication means that we need to communicate the plans to all of you. We have to communicate to all of you some important other items, right? What are we going to be doing about protective gear, right? We know that we are trying to order as much as we can, and that's going to be forwarded to our staff. Okay, we may be able to give some to our families, but this may be a good time for you to try to acquire some face masks if you don't already have for your students, because it may be, and there are no clear guidelines at this point in time, but it may be that it is advised that students return to school with masks or face coverings. And this is a very challenging kind of proposition, right? Because in addition to all of our feelings about wearing these things, it's not that comfortable. I've been wearing them. And what are how are your children going to react to wearing them? And with those with sensory issues, it may be very uncomfortable. So this is just the first part of the plan. Is the communication is so very important, and some other items relate to, in addition to the masks and face coverings, you know, communications on our policy with keeping students at home, you know, who are displaying symptoms. This is very similar to our health office policy at this point in time. Anybody who has like a runny nose or a temperature, you wouldn't send your child into school. So any child who is not feeling well, we are asking families, do not send these children into school. And you know, we're also going to have to talk about the busing situation, because this is going to be a very complicated item on this list. And I know a lot of staff and a lot of families are going to have input on whether we're going to feel comfortable putting our children on the bus and how that should be done appropriately. And the other thing that we will be talking about will be upon entrance into the school building, about taking temperatures of students. That is something that is being discussed. And that is not set in stone. I just want to make you aware of it. That's what we're considering at this point in time. The next very important part is general safety cleaning procedures. We already have these in place, but I want you all to know that without these cleaning safety procedures, who's going to feel comfortable walking into a building during these unprecedented times? So some of these things we are talking about is masks, face coverings during the course of the school day in the building, staff, students having temperature checks, continuing to remind staff and students to wash hands regularly, use hand sanitizers. Before, we were very, very nervous about making it a mandatory cleaning situation. We always encouraged our students and encouraged our staff, gave the reminders. We may consider a mandatory cleaning schedule, and so we'll continue to talk about that. We feel very strongly, please, if you can, send your children in with a water bottle or with a thermos for water, and if the children go through that, then we'll figure out another way to get them water. We're just concerned with having groups congregate at water fountains. That is probably going to be something that we do away with temporarily. And we have to talk about bathroom usage, schedules for going there. We don't necessarily want people congregating outside of bathrooms, how often it needs to be cleaned. So something else that we're considering. Okay. Other things, field trips, probably going to be on pause for a while. And we're going to have to really take a good look at our drop-off, pickup situation every single day by a parent guardian. So we will definitely alert you about the specifics of that, but it's something that we're going to have to take into consideration because we want to protect you, your children, and also our staff. Related services, a real big portion of our programming in addition to classroom instruction. How is that going to happen? Nothing is set in stone. For a period of time, we thought maybe what we could do is, and what I do know that we're definitely going to do is in our pre-K through grades 5 in Glen Cove, self-contained. Okay, so those students stay in that classroom. Okay, so they're fine. There's not major disruption to their programming, but grades 6 through 12 in the middle school and high school, and not to confuse you, Tiegerman at Woodside grades K through 12, they're self-contained also. So they don't have this issue. They get lumped in with the Glen Cove pre-K and K through 5 elementary school. They're self-contained as well. So they don't have to worry about this, but 6 through 12 in middle school and high school, departmentalization, just like any other normal middle school, high school. They're switching classes every 42, 43 minutes. So that's going to have to be looked at carefully. And at this point in time, it's looking like we are not going to have any classroom changing. The students will stay in the same classroom and the teachers will come to them. And what we talked about regarding related services was in the beginning, well, if we were going to follow that model to reduce the transitioning or the movement through the building for students who are pulled out for related services, maybe we could possibly look into teletherapy. It's been pretty effective utilizing at home, but maybe teletherapy into the classroom. I'm not sure that's going to be a model that's going to work. We're certainly open to it and we'll look into it, but probably what we're going to do with the related services is that we will resume what we had previously done. They are mandated. They are important for all of your children's growth and needs. So for push-in, the therapist will push into the classroom. For the pull-out services, the therapist will come to the classroom, and then the children will be escorted to the doorway of the classroom, and the therapist will pick them up and take them to the therapist's office or suite. So that's where we are kind of thinking at this point in time regarding related services. Counseling is always going to be a pull-out session. okay? But that may take place because a lot of the counseling, if it's not individual, is definitely done in group format. And we want to try to make sure that we are keeping adequate distance. So we may take a look at doing it in different spots in buildings that are not being utilized. And some of these places that are not going to be utilized, I just want you to know, we are probably not going to be doing physical education in the physical education classroom anymore, the auditorium. Okay, so that will be a push into the classroom, the phys ed teacher. The same thing with music or art or other electives. They would be a push-in service to the classroom. So when you don't have designated spaces for music, art, or physical education anymore, this opens up spaces in the building for us to break up groups and not have students on top of each other. And that may be utilized for classroom instruction, and it may be utilized for related services, okay? As I mentioned to you regarding classroom instruction, we are thinking at this point in time, probably will be all throughout the course of the day in one classroom to limit the transitioning or movement in the buildings. Instruction will come to the students, and just the only movement probably will be related to related service and to use of bathroom. And every building is going to have to look at that bathroom protocol and schedule and determine what works best for them. Bathroom procedures. You see that here? We have to talk about that. You know, will that be a classroom schedule, or will that be, of course, when somebody has to go, we're going to let them go, but we have to look closely at the movement through the building and want to make sure that is accomplished and done in as safe manner as possible. Lunch. This is, I had paused before because I knew I had something else that I wanted to speak to you about moving throughout the building and spaces being opened. And I completely whiffed. So here it is. Here's my reminder. Lunch. We're not doing group lunch anymore. So the lunch would take place in the student's classroom. And we just feel like at this point in time that this is the safest manner to conduct education and whatever services that we're providing to your children in the building without getting too many people together on top of each other. Okay, other things that we are thinking of, and we don't have specifics in place, but it's something that you guys need to be aware of. We need to protect our staff, protect your children. We have to take a serious look at our visitors. And I'm not even speaking about you parents and families and caregivers. I'm thinking about, we have vendors who drop off supplies. We have CSC, CPSC representatives who come to the building to observe. So these are things that we're going to have to take a look at and try to see if some of these meetings, and this is going to take me into my next portion of the presentation with regard to meetings, is can this be done virtually? We've become so acclimated and accustomed to doing Zoom meetings and FaceTime, and we're going towards the Google Meet Hangout. So maybe we'll be able to do some of these meetings virtually, and some of these things, as far as visitors, we're going to have to take a very close look at it to make sure that we are not having too much travel and too many other people. We have to restrict the amount of people that come in contact with our staff and with your students to ensure their safety and well-being. Okay? Busing procedures. I mentioned it to you earlier. We're going to have to put, we have a lot of smart people in our buildings, and we're going to have to put our heads together in this. And parents, we're open to your suggestions also. But this is going to be a very challenging piece to the puzzle. And I'm not even thinking about, because it's very difficult for us to manage your children when they're on the bus. That's overseen and handled by OPT, the Office for Pupil Transportation, through New York City Public Schools. Or if you're Long Island, if through your Long Island School District, So it's hard for us. We will work with your drivers and matrons and provide guidance. Your drivers and matrons may already be informed or being provided guidance by the school districts on how to handle that. But we will work and coordinate to the best of our ability with the drivers and the matrons on the buses, on the AM and PM transport. But from our point of view, in some buildings, some of our protocols have related to, with regard to admitting students in and dismissing students, having larger gatherings in, I know in Glen Cove, in the preschool elementary school, we sometimes are having all students go to the auditorium for bus dismissal. In other buildings, I know in the middle school and in the high school, they have busing rooms. So students go switch from their classrooms and go to another designated bus dismissal room. And that is probably going to all end when we return. We're probably going to have to stick with those self-contained classrooms where the students are receiving instruction. And then we would have to, when the bus is ready to go, we would have to make an announcement, and students on that particular bus would have to then be transitioned to their bus as safely as possible. And lastly, for the schools that are doing clubs, that does not, I'm not sure all schools are doing clubs, but we're going to have to look at that. That's a high interest, priority level activity for all of our staff and our students. We love our clubs, and we don't want to take that away from our staff and our students. It's another opportunity to enrich the strong instruction and educational experience that all of our students are getting. So we have to look at that and see how we can do that in the safest manner. Okay. Again, I just want to remind everyone, this is a very, very early preliminary proposal plan. Okay. This will change over time, and we may receive guidance from the Department of Health. We may receive guidance from the state government, New York State government. We may receive guidance from the New York State Education Department, or from the New York City Department of Education, or from your local school district. So we are very, very willing to integrate and take that information, that guidance, into our plan to enhance it. We just did not want to wait to the last minute, and we wanted to share with you that we are going to be prepared, as best prepared as possible, for when we are required to transition back to our school buildings. We are open to your feedback. Please do not hesitate to let your building administrators or your teachers know about thoughts and feelings about a transition plan. And you can certainly also put forth your suggestions or thoughts on your feedback on these plans through social@tiegerman.org. I want to thank all of you for hanging in there with us through this very challenging, unprecedented time. I feel like this has really helped us to try to band together and problem solve and work this out as a team. We are a family, as I said to you, and while families do go through some challenging times and sometimes some rough patches and arguments, we always got to come back together and help each other out, and we got to lean on each other. So families, thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for your feedback. First responders, essential workers, thank you again for all that you do. We are in your debt, and I will be seeing you next week with the principals to go over the Google platform plan. Take care. Have a wonderful weekend.